All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in this crypto world. My name is Cody, and have we got a very, very special event lined up for you guys today? Today, we're kind of diving deep into the psychology, the design methods, the principles, and everything in between when it comes to character game development. And with me are some pretty heavy duty swingers in the space when it comes to design and character stuff. And so I'll let them kind of introduce themselves. So we'll leave the Earnscape team till the last, but let's start off with Nyx. We'll let the ladies go first.
Always the ladies first. I want to
100%.
be last. I want to be
You
last.
want to be
No,
last?
I'll go first. I'll go first. Just being chaotic. Hi, I am Nix. Happy to be here and kind of step into this discussion. I'm really excited about it. I've been in Web3 for a few years. I To really go into my background would be, I don't know, it could take a long time. So I'll just zone in on why this particular discussion is important to me according to my background. I've been in marketing for a long time, and building brand stories and brand narratives is something that I do on a career level, but on a personal level, I do write stories, and I am very, very into the progression of a character from the perspective of things like Jungian like philosophy, psychology. What does it mean to go through your hero's journey, and what does that actually look like for real people on every day? I spent a lot of years building a platform, helping people go through, processes in their life like trauma recovery, figuring out like who they are, what they want to do in life. And this was like a personal love for me, and it's something that sort of helped and assisted in everything that I touched in life. Whether it was career, whether it was my family, whether it was playing games and sort of building out narratives inside of a game for people to enjoy, such as a guild system. But I'll stop right there and pass it over to the next person. But really excited to kind of dig deep into these topics.
Oh man, it was just getting good too. All right, we'll
Uh,
kick it over.
I could go so far.
We'll kick it over to Mizzy. Let's go with you next.
So, hi everyone, I'm Mizzy. I'm kind of like, in between worlds here. Like, I'm in between the anime verse, I'm in between crypto gaming. I spent a lot of time strategizing around the space, world building with like multiple games, multiple IPs. I'm a founder of Catalyst OG, which is a content and media focused gaming org. Co-founder of Paladins DAO as well, which is a esports driven gaming IP. And I myself am, you know, I'm I haven't fully divulged the lore yet, and I'm not going to bore you with the realities of the person behind the character. But if you go follow me at Mizzy's World, you can check out where my origins come from pretty soon. So keep it
Awesome.
at that.
Well, thank you. And Shilin, go for it.
You're muted, my brother. We can't hear you.
Yes, nice. This is the double mute of the Roadcaster. Um, yeah, I'm the Shaolin. I am the community manager for D Lab Games. I am also working with building IP on chain with Mycelium, which is a remix and co-creation platform for on Story Protocol, and then I'm also a Spaces host and with Pewcast. So, all things about me is that I've been in the tech space and primarily actually marketing and digital attribution. So for me, I have a very analytical background of how I look at things, and I kind of utilize that in my life. For me, character development is actually personal development. And I think understanding people's stories and understanding kind of their lore has been a big part of my life in terms of, being able to not only create your own personal brand and develop your own narrative, but really focusing and driving value to your audience by being captivating, right? And being entertaining. So for me, I think I have a different perspective. Obviously, I do have a gaming background. Obviously, independent of Web3. I actually started out of university working for old school Vivendi Universal. So there they built out, some of the most iconic IPs, whether that was Spiral the Dragon or whether it was, so many other brands that came out of Universal. So I'd love to obviously jump into the topics, get into it, and just see, based off of everybody's background and everybody's, thoughts, kind of just chime in. But I'm usually kind of the guy on the like the outlier on the side who likes to throw in bits and pieces of sometimes entertaining, sometimes factual, sometimes interesting info, but always glad to be here. I think, we have a wonderful panel, and so this is going to be a banger.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that one. I can't wait to get into this as well. So, with that being said, joining me as well is our founder of Earnscape, one of the co-founders or founders, and our leader, Steve. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I guess I can do that. Hey, most people who are going to watch this probably know who I am. I'm Steve, CEO of Earnscape, a guy who kind of just got this all kicked off at some point. I don't even know exactly how to define when the start point was at this point because it's changed so much. I've been doing gaming stuff for as long as I can remember. I remember when I was probably around 8 or 9, I wanted to get into games, and that was one of the reasons I ended up learning how to code because I wanted to make video games. Didn't exactly go that way with my career and my life, but things have a habit of kind of taking turns that you don't really expect, and I've kind of come full circle back to what I always wanted to do 30 some years ago. So now I'm kind of here and doing a lot of stuff in the gaming space, not exactly building games, but I did, before Earnscape became what it is, it was a series of games. And we were creating a lot of characters for those games. So I do have a fair amount of experience somewhat recently with character creation. Working with a lot of games also teaches you a lot about that space. But I am really thrilled to hear what all of the other people on our expert panel have to say on this topic. And as a side note, I do have another call, so I'm going to have to jump off here at the top of the hour to take that. But assuming this is still running, I will be back.
No, we appreciate you jumping on, and at least Steve, you can say that you made it to the gaming industry, and you're not stuck doing something you don't like accounting or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, I have to do a lot of that too. We don't have a CFO, so guess who gets to do all the books?
Yep, exactly. So
Chief Funky Officer, that's me, baby.
Yep.
Or is that a real title?
Go for it.
Oh, hello, friends. My name is Doc. If you don't know me, you're about to. But you probably heard me before, and here's what I look like. Hey, I don't know. I'm really coffeed up right now, but I've lived my life as someone who appreciates pop culture, comics, film. I'm a theater kid, all that kind of stuff. Playing Dungeons and Dragons. Spent so many hours in basements eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew and creating stories. That's been my life. I don't have a storied career in the industry. I was a hotel hospitality and entertainment guy, but during those, hotel hospitality and travel guy, but during those years, and consistently, I've lived in the underground subcultures of independent art and film and entertainment. And I know I still surround myself with stuff. I have my garbage pail kids. I just grabbed these from the shelf. I've got comics galore. I even have my original 1980s Robotech guy right there. So you can say that, I carry this stuff with me and it's important to my life. And I'm able to share, and I'll talk about maybe some of this later about some of the stuff I'm sharing with my kids now, as far as like characters that we're starting to love together. But yeah, this is a great topic. There's nothing better than building stories. And the reason that I am such a strong believer in, I like crypto because it's sound money. I like blockchain because it's a great tool. But I love Web3 because it's the combination and the culmination of these things and the ideology that we can work together to build new stuff and use that technology to help people build these things easier and together. And that's why I'm here. That's my story.
I love it. Doc, you always bring out the fun in every meeting I've ever been in. So I appreciate you, my friend.
I got to keep people awake.
Oh, I know. So
it's a tough job. Someone's got to do it.
That's for sure. So, for me, I am a UI UX designer by trade. Been doing that for well over 24 years now. Primarily focused over the last decade in user experience journeys, really trying to understand the data. I've been a serial entrepreneur as well. I've owned quite a few different businesses from marketing agencies all the way down to tech companies. So uh, definitely excited about this. When I was a little boy, I was always wanting to be a illustrator. My grandfather worked on the Hanna-Barbera team, if you guys are familiar with who those guys are. So illustration and cartooning definitely runs deep in my veins. And so that kind of spurred the conversation. I think it was you and I, Nix, that were on a space together. And I think it was an
Mhm.
Earnscape one. And we kind of come up with the concept for this whole character development kind of thing because it never really gets talked about, right?
Yeah, right. I remember that conversation. We actually had to cut it off because we were taking control of the conversation and we're like, wait, that's not the topic. It's not the topic. But yeah, this is one that we it's underrepresented as a major part of game development, especially people who like RPGs and MMORPGs.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So, yeah, like with that being said, it's definitely an underserved topic, and for us, game design, really focuses on a lot of different things, and one of those major things is the emotional uh, connection with the characters, and it really does combine a lot of creative storytelling, psychological principles, and iterative design methods crafted specifically to make those characters compelling and relatable and memorable. So that's kind of my just kind of a light little question to throw out there to you guys. What was the very first character that you guys really connected with on an emotional level in a game? I'm kind of curious.
In a game specifically,
Yeah,
I'll have to
yeah,
think
let's
about
go.
that.
I mean, that's the theme of this
Yeah.
spaces game. So
Well, sure. But I just roll it all into all the cool stuff. But I'll
uh,
think I'll try to think specifically on a game, though. You'll have to come back.
Oh,
Oh,
I got one for you.
Does the
I,
character have to
okay.
have
I'll
a name?
what was that, Steve?
Tyrael from Diablo 2. That was like the first character that I like geeked about. Um, and then closely followed by like Jin Kazama. It was like around the same era. It was like literally the same month, I'm pretty sure. But like Tyrael from Diablo 2 and Jin Kazama were the two characters that like owned my early formative years for sure.
So funny.
Interesting.
Uh,
That's a good one.
Mine was
Who
actually
else?
when you say it that way. When you say it that way, I was like, oh yeah. And I was thinking of like Mario, just because I think that was really my first game. I literally dived in from head to toe from level 1 to level. I mean, yeah, 9.
I
But
mean,
when it comes
I
to actual
started
character
playing
development,
Diablo 2 and Tekken when I was like 4 or 5. Like,
nice. That's
yeah, so that was,
insane.
I didn't play Mario. That's what I played.
Well, different age gap. No, actually, when you say that, it's my favorite series has always been Street Fighter, and seeing them come to life through manga and anime really did kind of transform it. I wouldn't say my favorite character, Guile, was properly portrayed by Claude Van Damme, but Jean Claude Van Damme. But why not, right? He was iconic action hero. But no, that was my favorite. Was actually that because when it came down to it, I love competitive fighting games and just the kind of cool things that they did in the backgrounds and the people that they were and like the mystery they made it out to be was always so interesting and kind of challenging because you always had to think about how character development works with regards to is it just a hero or are they complicated? And I felt like Guile was one of those complicated people. The same thing with Rio and Ken and just all the characters in Street Fighter because they all have a dark past that got them and pushed them to the front. So probably that was the more truer characters for me when I was doing gaming because you know why else wouldn't you be a Street Fighter
Right.
if you were just a happy-go-lucky guy?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting that you say that because it's you only get so much window in a fighting game for that like plot development. Dead or Alive used to do really good. I think they really kind of like when they came out, started weaving those things together between the different series, and a lot of other people started doing the same thing. But Ian from DOA, that's my girl. But
Nice.
I would say for me, and this, I mean, I'm half joking but half not. Leisure Suit Larry. You know who that is. But it wasn't just that, right? It was the Sierra. It was Sierra games, which was like King's Quest. I mean, Leisure Suit Larry is what I mean, I was smart enough to figure out how to get past the copy protection when my parents were gone. But King's Quest, Leisure Suit Larry, all the early Sierra games, like they made you actually feel like you were part of it, right?
Yeah, Police Quest too.
Yeah, Police Quest. Yeah, I mean, but you know,
intense.
it's like it was the evolution of, and I grew up first playing. Well, I played video games. It was like I had this Magnavox Odyssey, which is like a really weird, niche console, but it was made in like the 70s before Atari. But text-based adventures, you know, was really where I started exploring gaming, and that leap for that Sierra made from going to text-based. They were the first ones to do like mouse point and stuff like that with King's Quest. That was big. And like, that was something also, it wasn't just the games, it was just also the event, because my whole family, you know, we would play that together and things like that. Clearly we didn't play Leisure Suit Larry together because that'd be weird, but King's Quest, Sierra Online, like those were amazing games. But Leisure Suit Larry is also a badass character. Like you cannot.
If people only knew the backstory, they'd have to go ChatGPT and find. But I was like, yeah. I know if I'm supposed to say. I guess as a grown adult, I can say all these things. But like, it was around, I was like, yeah, I was definitely a kid.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
So
I remember the Leisure Suit Larry games. I never actually got one, never played one, but I always remember reading like Game Informer. Like, this game looks.
They're hilarious. They're really funny.
The comedy was great.
Yeah, the comedy was so good. Like the writing was so good. And like number 2, you had like it was like a tourist brochure too, and that had like clues. It was all just interconnected. Like they were doing this kind of like reaching out with the media stuff early, way before anybody else was. But yeah, that's me.
So Doc, I gotta ask, did you used to play King's Quest on the old Tandy computer?
Yeah, man, we had a Tandy 386, Tandy 486, brah. Like, you know, 64K in memory. Gee, what?
Yeah, exactly. I think we just dated ourselves with all these young guys. So
I can definitely tell I'm like 10 to 15 to maybe 20 years too young for this conversation. I was like, what the fuck is going on, man?
I had those computers, but I was a child at the time, like single-digit years. So I can relate, but not very directly.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, no, I'm just trolling, you know.
Like boomers, all these boomers on stage.
All good. All right, Nick. Did you already tell us your character, or do we need to go to Steve?
Oh no, I didn't tell you my character, and I think it's because I feel like I'm like being rebellious with this question, because like my first experience like falling in love with games was actually the ones where you were developing your own character within the story. So like my first love was Knights of the Old Republic, and like the curation of your own character, like going through the actual story itself and being faced with all of the questions, you know, like what are you going to do in this circumstance? Are you going to choose the light side or the dark side? You're going to get the easy way or the hard way, and how you're going to, you know, build your character and all of the other characters surrounding you. That was my first love. And then following that was straight to MMO RPGs and falling in love with like Star Wars Galaxies players and like my WoW players, whichever ones that I was curating. I mean, I know in they were characters that I was creating like inside of a universe, but I mean, there wasn't a lot of variant, if you know what I mean. Like there was like, you get like to choose between 6 characters and that's what you get. But yeah, that's my rebellious answer. I would say like I did like before then, the only games I really liked were like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and like all the games that had some sort of like female some sort of female assassin thing. But other than that, yeah, that's me.
Totally.
That's
I'm with you on that. BioWare 100%. Even Star Wars Galaxies, the MMO, like I was so looped into that until you got to the point where you had to team up with other people. Like I really want to just
Yep.
go back and play it because the stories was so good.
It's not the same game. It became
Or
such
the
a
Old Republic.
game,
I mean, the
though.
Old
Oh
Republic.
yeah,
Yeah,
KOTOR.
but
The original KOTOR was so amazing.
but
Wasn't
pre
it? Yeah.
SOE Star Wars Galaxies was shit because it wasn't just 6 like standard archetypes. It was like the skill trees were so crazy, and there were people that actually role played in that game. And then Sony came in,
yeah.
and cooped it all
Yeah,
up.
it was really legit, and there were like full player built cities, and people would really role play as to what they were in the city. And you'd have like the city droid engineer who made all the droids. You have I remember because I used to play that game, and there was a gun vendor. His name was Glock. It's like, all right, you're really role playing that.
That game was way too, like, we weren't ready for it when it came out. Like I feel like the moment that they changed the whole format where you got to choose to be a Jedi from the get-go, I don't think I opened my computer again since that happened, because I had like dedicated 2 or 3 years to the build of this very complex world. I would say hands down that experience definitely built the foundation for how I kind of expect modern day virtual worlds to be that are integrated.
They should have made it a little bit easier to become a Jedi in the original version of the game, but
I don't think so.
They well, you had no idea how to do it.
I know
that was my issue.
Cool.
Yeah, well, my issue was like you could spend your entire game trying to become a Jedi, and there was absolutely no hint. Like until the first person just happened to stumble across it, nobody knew what you had to do, and it was crazy. You had to like master 6 skills that were randomly assigned to your character.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just a nerf herder
to get there.
Nice.
I like that, honestly, though. I thought that was cool. I didn't care at all. I thought it made it challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it basically meant it was just kind of a sideshow. Becoming a Jedi couldn't be your thing.
I think that's what actually let the world flourish, though, because everybody wasn't chasing that one skill tree. I mean, they were, but in their own way, right? You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Cody, what's your character?
Well, all right. I'm just going to pull back the curtain, rip the Band-Aid off. I cried during Gears of War at the end of it.
Oh, my dude. Hell yeah. Which one?
I love that story. The whole story arc of all 3.
Okay.
Kind of put together. I mean, just the way that they wrote it. I didn't. After the first one, I played the remaining games just for the story, not for the game, right? Because I just wanted to see how they evolved, and the way that they broke down the characters and told backstories and stuff. To me, that was like awesome. Like I
was that way with Halo. After the first Halo, I didn't care as much about the gameplay, although 2 was definitely better than 1. But I mostly played it just because I wanted to know how the story ended, and then they just kept dragging it out and adding more.
Yeah, after Bungie left, it kind of went downhill in my opinion. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. I mean, I love the open world kind of concepts that can tell backstories. I love the Assassin's Creed series. A lot of the backstories that go into that, and yeah, we definitely need to get the tattooed lawyer up here. For sure.
Yeah.
Nix, if you want to share the link with them, go for it.
Yeah, I would love to. Sending you a link, Tatted.
But yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, man. I mean,
go for it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say.
I was gonna say, like, Gears of War, that lore was amazing. Like, I really enjoyed how the story played out. I know they have like the prequel coming out soon. I was actually like a really big competitive player in Gears 3. I was like one of the top 50 in my senior high school. And dude, that I mean, if you haven't played the game yet, like you're gonna get spoiler alert. Spoiler alert! Like when Dom dies in the third one, bro, I also cried. Like I'm not gonna lie, I was like fucking broken. Like
I don't think I played 3, but I don't think I'm going to anytime soon. So it's all
Hey,
good.
this is a safe space.
well, bro,
This is
it's
a
been
safe
like
space.
fucking 13 years.
I know, man.
Yeah,
I know.
it's like-
I can't remember if I
like,
played 3.
Spoiler
There's
alert:
4, right? Are
Vader
there
is Luke's
4?
father, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Wait, what?
Oh, bro,
Just don't spoil
I
Mass
was just
Effect because I
broken.
still haven't finished that either.
You haven't finished Mass Effect?
Not
How
all
have
of
you
them.
not finished, Max?
Bro?
Max
Because
You're never gonna.
I'll tell you, I don't want to interrupt your steam on the Gears of War, but I'll tell you why I haven't in a moment. But please go ahead, man. Gears of War is the shit, though.
No, tears already shed. You're good.
I haven't finished it because I was during the time when they were coming out. I was not like working. I was working on a cruise ship, so I just never got around to it. I'm like halfway through Mass Effect 2. Which sucks because I fucking love Mass Effect. I played it. Like I went and scrounged up and we had like tiny little cabins when I was working on a cruise ship, man. But I had like full like rock band set up and everything that I brought with me. But I finished Mass Effect on like a tiny little like 13-inch crappy CRT, but it did not matter because at the end of that first game, when like all is revealed and everything you go through, whoo, man, was that just like so incredible. That was a feeling, man, for sure. But that's just BioWare. Like, how many BioWare games have we mentioned here? Tons, right? Like, they get it. They always have got it. It's like choose your own adventure when you're reading those books as a kid. I had, God, Shalyn, I see you shaking your head. I had like tons of them, man.
I fully borrowed at least 3 different libraries of choose your own adventure books. That's how deep I was into it. 100%.
Yeah, me too. And like Zork books and stuff like that. Like, those are the best.
That's awesome. So the main reason why I asked this question is because obviously you guys all shared your game that kind of resonated with you, the character that kind of resonated with you, and with that being said, we could easily see that there's an emotional connection, right? This kind of leads me on to my next question that I kind of want to pose and kind of bring up is, what are those emotional elements? And I'm going to lean more on you guys that are kind of in the branding, kind of in the whole character development side of things. But when it comes to that emotional thing, what is it that you guys do to try to hook gamers or different people with that emotion? Are there principles? Are there methods? Are there things like that you guys use?
I mean, one thing that's come up a lot, like a recurring theme, has been player choice. We had a couple people say that they love the characters because they built the characters. We had Doc and Co. saying that they love to choose your own adventure because, again, you're picking basically how the character develops. Same with how a lot of these games, KOTOR, Mass Effect, all of these characters that people have been saying they fall in love with, and I'm the same way. It's because you created the character. It's within a bound that was created by the person who designed the game and created the outline for the character. But when you have a vested interest, you as the player, in the actual outcome of the character's story arc, that makes you a lot more emotionally invested in it. Like, how many people would be emotionally invested in their marriage if they had no say in it? That's one of the reasons divorce rates go up, because no one actually does things together. But when you're making something and you're creating a new identity based on what you're doing throughout your engagements with a game, or even in real life, with a company or a relationship, it's just kind of human nature. You become emotionally invested in these things because you have put a bunch of time into creating the character. I think that the Gears of War characters are a little bit more one-dimensional in that respect. Like, we don't have as much impact on them because, again, and same with the fighting game characters. But one of the biggest themes that we just heard ourselves talking about was characters and stories that we create ourselves as we go, given that they may be within certain bounds, but they don't necessarily have to be. It could be completely freeform.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
I mean,
I think a lot of it.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of it comes down to like alignment more than anything, right? Like bringing it all the way back to even D&D, right? Like, your alignment, that is a very like play the character yourself game. but it's like where are you aligned, right? Like your alignment is kind of like where your emotional, like where you resonate the most, I would say, right? Like I've always played chaotic alignments in D&D because I'm a chaotic person. Like I enjoy that shit, you know. Sometimes
I said my
chaotic
life
evil,
story.
neutral, or good,
Talk and
depends,
ask
you
my
know.
alignment so I could pick an alignment for my BG3 character.
So I love like chaotic alignments and storylines and tropes. So like I think even when it comes to having like an open world where you can build your lore out and your character in, it's like how as the person designing the environment, how can I let certain archetypes thrive in certain environments, and like how do I take them down that road? So that way you still have the choice that plays into it, but there is that emotional attachment for like the more traditional, setups and archetypes that we would see. And I really think like with the alignment, like if you're writing a story with like a predetermined storyline, like it's also like who is this for? Who are you speaking to? Those things, like what does it symbolize? At least, for me, that was how a lot of the gameplay felt growing up playing MMOs, playing ARPGs. Like I was really, like I had mentioned, I was really big on Diablo 2 and Tekken, because like I loved how Tekken was just like you had all this family beef and family drama, and it was like very Shakespearean. This guy's like kind of a devil, like he's a devil. He has this devil gene, and he gets it from like his mom, and then you think that he chooses to be a devil, but you end up finding out that it's like inherited, and he's like realizing that he wasn't as much of a badass as he thought he was, and it just you end up with all these weird and like unique twists and turns that feel oddly relatable. Like, I had I obviously not similar in the manner that they happen in the game, but like family drama and things like that. Like I was going through it growing up, and I was like, damn, I feel like Jin Kazama, bro. Like I'm not even in the middle of this shit, and I gotta like watch it all go down, right? So it was like really interesting, like when you're designing a character or designing storylines, like who's the target audience, and even outside of the target audience, like who's the potential other people that you can speak to while still talking to your target audience.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we reference a lot of games from the last, couple decades or whatever, but I think it's really interesting to think about how people love characters from the 8-bit and 16-bit days, because outside of stuff other than Final Fantasy or Zelda, where there's a lot of story heavy stuff, you still have IP and characters that are loved by many. I mean, do you love Sonic because Dr. Robotnik was written well and he had a good foil to play against him, or do you love Sonic because he was cool and he was blue and it was imagery and hype, and the gameplay is like the gameplay made the thing. Earthworm Jim, freaking awesome, cool game, right? Like, did he have much of a story? No, but he had this comic book vibe. Toe Jam and Earl, one of the best damn games ever to this day, which I love myself. And it was just two weird dudes jumping around on a map and riding an elevator with some bad like PCM funk music coming through like on the cutscenes, but I love them. And so like back at it's like where does the mix of like, it was more like marketing and unique gameplay elements that made the game that also made the character, which I think is really unique because you couldn't afford to get really in depth. That was before there was a lot of like extra media, or like no one's going to read the Toe Jam and Earl like novel that they wrote. It's like side media or whatever. I mean, I would maybe, but just to see what Planet Funkatron's really like. But I think there's like this really cool jump in gaming in general where they put as much as they could into characters, and then it's like, oh gosh, now we're getting into the 64-bit era and beyond, and we're actually able to inject more true story writing, which kind of gave the rise to like some of this stuff. But there's a lot of IP out there that people absolutely love because I guess playing it then, even if you didn't like have a lot of story, you could put yourself in their shoes, and that was good enough. If the game was fun, right? Like I could be Star Fox or I could be whatever, right? I mean, the only thing you could really be then, and they also in real life, was probably Paperboy. I'm gonna go, Dad.
I'm time traveling with you fellas and ladies. Jeez.
No,
It's funny that you mentioned that because my nephew has a YouTube channel where he pretends to be Sonic. Like he's
That's awesome,
larping
man.
as Sonic, yeah, and he like wears the red shoes. He's like 12. He like wears the red shoes, and he actually goes into like VR chat and like he's created Sonic for himself. He like role plays as Sonic in like his YouTube videos, and it's actually been popping off for him.
That's
Like,
awesome,
and
dude.
it's really cool to watch how like he's created almost like his own lore within like the already made Sonic lore. Like he's like spun off and like created fan fictions and stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's
sometimes it really just comes down to the fact that they think the character looks fucking cool.
Yeah.
but that's a really
agree.
great spin, man. Fan fiction and just like kids' imagination. My daughter loves Sonic, you know, because they have the movies now and everything.
Mhm.
She didn't
Just
play
about
the
to say.
games, but it's like one of those things that just endured. But fan fiction is a huge driver in general of it's like kind of a litmus of if like a IP or a character really if they have a lot of fanfic made about them, then you know that you did a good job, I think.
I mean, that goes right back to what I was saying earlier about how you get emotionally invested when you're helping create the lore and the character around it. You know, that's
Mhm.
and when the people around the IP are helping to further the IP by creating a whole bunch of stories around it. Yeah, everybody gets emotionally invested in it. Now there's a whole bunch of additional people who are exposed to it, a whole bunch of people who are reading it, and yeah, you just start to fall in love with the characters. I know my kids have never played Sonic or Mario, but they've watched the Sonic movies. They've watched the Mario movie. Like they love these characters, but they've never even played the original games. Well, any of the games, let alone the originals. Like I can't imagine my kids these days picking up the original Super Mario Brothers on NES. That would be cool. They'd probably like it. Although the games are a lot harder now. Back then, they did not hold your hand. You had to figure that out on your own.
Isn't that a
Battletoads.
prerequisite to be a dad? Is you got to introduce them to Mario and, and these kind of games? I mean, you'd think,
Yeah.
but I mean, those are some of the things that I made sure. I mean, my oldest, he was playing Halo when he was 5, back in the day when you had the LAN party still. This is all pre online stuff. And, it's really funny when you got a 35-year-old that gets so frustrated because a 5-year-old's beating him constantly on multiplayer that he gets up and leaves. Those are the type of things that definitely drive those memories for you for sure. But
I've been there. Have you done the full like OG Xbox full Halo experience where you're carting like the largest CRT TV that you can to like your buddy's garage and setting up 4 TVs and 4 Xboxes?
Yep,
Did you ever
we
do
used to do
that?
that. Yep, we used to
Yeah.
do that in the day. So one of my friends worked for Bungie, so I got to play Halo 2 while they were in like block rendering form,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was like nuts running around there. You have like this pirated CD type of thing,
That's
and
cool.
it was way cool. Had to fill out a nice little questionnaire, sign an NDA kind of deal, but hey, it was definitely worth it. It was fun, but yeah, that kind of leads me on to the next thing that I wanted to talk about. We've talked about memory, we've talked about how these can kind of drive the different type of social impacts in our lives as well. But when it comes to some of these games we've been talking about, a lot of them, have the capability of connecting with others in a sense that, the co-ops, the multiplayer leaderboards, things like that. What kind of games? I mean, is this an important kind of element to character development, or do you think it's just more for bringing people together?
Depends
I'm
on the
not.
I
game.
would say,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
kind of
Let's see what
odd.
Nick says. You've been quiet.
Thanks,
You've been
guys.
quiet over there. Yeah, you've been quiet over there.
I still have a hard time like interjecting in conversation. I appreciate the mic pass. I think it is important, but it also depends. Like it depends on the game. Like one of the things that I find really interesting about the previous conversation that segues into this conversation is our relationship to that character, be it as we identify with them as in like this is me now, or is it somebody that you actually identify as like your companion through the game, like now you care about what happens to them, or is it somebody that you align with, as in like, okay, this is like my cohort because he shares the values as I do, he has a similar journey as I do, we have the same issues, and now I'm replaying like my life in another format or in another like multiverse. But I think that like when you include the social aspect into it, that's a whole different level of investment bias and building emotional connection, not just to how you relate to the character that you're creating, whether like it's your companion, you align with them, or you see yourself as them, whatever it is, but also how that creation is relating to everyone else in the game. Because to me, in my opinion, I think that a gaming character often becomes the avatar in that particular environment. Your avatar is a projection of yourself a lot of times. Like, for instance, my Nyx avatar, that's a projection or a side of my personality that to me I actually look at is like a game character. This is my game character, transversing the Web3 landscape. And I create and pull parts of myself in that character inside the Web3 quote unquote game. And I feel like I relate to, in a way, all of the other people that are kind of doing the same thing in this world that we're just trying to navigate. But I create personal connections to, I find people that personal connections to their avatar almost differently than I do to them behind the computer, because it's like we recognize like we're bringing forward a part of ourselves in this particular world. But when we remove the world and it's just person to person, we relate differently. And it's not always the same. It's actually very different. So I think a lot of times, like, it's almost like deciding that this world that you guys are going to basically explore together, whether it's an in-game world or a social media platform, that is a whole different level of investment bias, because you're not only investing like in the avatar that you built, but in the world that you've invested in with all of those characters. And depending on your persona type, especially if you're extroverted, even people that are introverted and they have very close connections or very small circles, that investment bias is probably arguably one of the strongest ones that any of us will ever come across in a game. I don't know about you guys, but like the social atmosphere that I've created in games, sometimes people tell me it's because I'm a female. Those games are games that I will stay at for years. But if I'm like just running through a game and it's just me, myself, and not anyone else, I'm done when the game is done. I don't go back.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. Do you want to hear I've never been a social gamer in my entire life, really, or a social media user. I wouldn't even chat on forums because I have crippling social anxiety. But something about Web3, baby. Here I am. I just get to be me. I get to be me and don't give a shit. But yeah,
it's hard to imagine you with social anxiety, Doc.
I do.
It's hard. So hard to imagine you that way.
I do. I actually started waiting tables because I had such bad social anxiety when I was, younger. Is it forced me to to speak to people, right? To get better at speaking with people, because I get so screwed up on stuff. But yeah, it's true. But now here I am.
I'm still trying to imagine that, given that I met this guy in Singapore in this crazy room and we just collided. Our personalities literally collided.
Yeah, we did, man. That was the best. We just found each other. It was like a movie.
That's awesome.
It was in the smoking room. It's like the smoke parted in the whatever that club was with the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, it was Carnival.
Yeah, Carnival, right? Yeah. That was awesome.
Private room, fog, Ferris wheel.
No, it was so great. Hey, this club in Singapore, they have a little Ferris wheel. They have slides.
Yeah. Marina Bay Sands. It's like their premier.
Yes.
They had a lot of stuff right outside there during Token. That was really cool.
But I was Shaolin. Speaking with Shaolin, I gotta say, man, it was a super breath of fresh air to meet this gentleman, because it's like I go to these things with purpose, but without purpose, right? Because I just cruise through and see, I like meeting people and seeing who's there. And then we got on this conversation about what's important in Web3 and building stories and entertainment and stuff. And it was just like brother from another mother.
Yeah.
Same thing with my boy Mizzy and Nix. Everybody here.
Everyone.
That's why we're all here, right? I mean, because we all align on this stuff. So, but yeah, But I agree with you, Nick. Like, especially the thing with like the social media and the PFP thing is interesting as well, right? Because you start to identify like a style of personality with the way people project themselves, and then I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm the same either way.
We're all that way. The avatars we
Yeah.
pick are like Nick says, digital representations of ourselves. We tried, and almost everybody, if you look at the avatars they pick for themselves, not literally everybody, but pretty dang close, it's all an idealized version of yourself and what you aspire to be, how you see yourself. And when you're able to create that character in like an MMO or something, you really embody that character. And then when you can interact with all of your friends, it really makes it real. It validates it. So in a lot of senses, those do become the most real characters that you most emotionally attach yourself to, because it's effectively you and it's what you see as the ideal version of yourself. Now, I have to run because I have another call. I'm a minute late. I'll be back once that call is over, but have a good rest of the chat, guys. And
Have a good
ladies.
rest. Thank you. I have a question based on
See
what
you later,
Steve
man.
said. What's everybody's average character creation time if you've got a deep character editor in any kind of game? Like, how long does it take?
Before I get into that, I was actually going to jump in on the whole idealized version.
Yeah, man.
I mean, as someone that LARPs as a fucking anime character all day, right? It's like it's very true in the sense that I'm a very unfiltered version of myself when I'm busy, right? The Mizzy that most people meet in person is, I wouldn't say reserved, because I'll still say whatever the fuck comes to mind. I just maybe don't share it as often, right? It's like, if you ask me, I'll say it, but I'm not gonna say it unprompted. Where like when I play this character, I'm just like la la la, and it's a lot of fun. But I would say like different people take different approaches. Like I would never in my life want pink hair. I've done blue in real life. But like it's like a reference to like a million different things that I really fuck with. So it's like that's why he rocks the pink hair. It's like it's a reference to Killer Cam, Little Peep, pink Porsches that I used to do at some of the. I used to like mod out pink Porsches and put them in like the middle of the stage of like events that I would go to and stuff, because they would just like pop really hard against like black wrapping and like car detailing and aesthetics. So I mean, the pink is like a really universal reference for like things that I always found aesthetically cool or pleasing or things like that. So I do think like there is a lot more of a story to tell through our avatars rather than like, oh, just showing my face, right? Like, it's just something where it's like I can be a lot more symbolic and share in many discrete ways a lot more of myself through an avatar than I could like just being,
Cool,
the person behind Mizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amalgamation of like lots of little pieces of you. That's cool. I dig it.
And I think
I agree with I like a little
go
like
for it.
to add on to that is, and I think it kind of like ties in a few of our topics of conversation when it comes to an avatar is like how often do you name your game character like the same game character, or like make your character like the same image the best you can, like across game to game to game. Like I remember
for sure.
like my yeah, exactly. Like my avatar for how I don't know how many years was always Phoenix, because at that point it was a little bit too on the nose, but at the time it was like a way for me to kind of like step into this person that can always be like reborn no matter my circumstances, and like I actually found a lot of like dare I say like therapy playing games where I could like progress through the game in like a record time, or just like and feel good and have like those dopamine hits, because it kind of reminded me like if I focused on something I could complete it and I can get to the other side. And a lot of that character development like inside of the game actually transitioned for me in real life. And so I found that it was this process that was like always going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Of course Phoenix transitioned into Nyx. Everywhere I go, it's Nyx, because it's like, the goddess of night. It has like a little bit of the same story behind the character, but it's a little less on the nose. It was like this person that kind of emerged over decades of being Phoenix, not having to be reborn like constantly over and over again, but sort of like this acceptance of it's just the cycle. Like it's just the cycle. We go through hard shit. We go on to the next thing and we persevere. And I would find that like that alignment with my avatar would actually create an attraction for the kind of games that I always wanted to play too. Like I love the role playing games where like that particular character was just about to step foot into like an impossible journey, you know, then you have to make it to all the way to the end. You build up your character and they become like to me, my character was like my companion through the world. You know, I was like, I invested in this character. I set them up for success. You know, if we failed, we came better, more prepared, and we kept going. And it was like a way to sort of like, almost say to myself like, oh, I can do that stuff in real life. And so whenever I came to Web3, it was almost like I came to Web3 with like a highly skilled character, aka Nyx, because I already done that in all the other, you know, games or like whatever metaphorical matrices in the world. And so coming here, it was just like, okay, whatever happens, I'll get back up and I'll do it again. I'll just keep going. I'll just keep going. Baddies, you can come after me. I'll just keep going. Like that sounds bad. It sounds like a roach or something. Like, we'll just keep going.
But no, that's good. That's good. I love
that's
that.
really good. Yeah. You know, to kind of add to that, and to add in a couple more elements of what we've talked about, you know, we've talked about control, right? Being in control of what it is. And I loved what you said, Nix, about you know, it's an extension of us. It's things we're going through. And if we look at those games that stand out to us the most, if we go just a little bit more over the fence and look at what was going in our lives around that time, and specifically, you know, our environments that we might have lived in, the situations we were going through in life, there's a reason why, like when all of us were to go to the same movie, if we went and all saw the new Minecraft movie together, all five of us, we walked out and one person all asked us what our favorite part of the movie was, we will each say something completely different because it resonates with us on a whole different scale. And so with us kind of talking about profiles and our kind of narrative, our alter egos, if you want to put it that way, they are definitely extensions of us and what we might be going through or how we want to project us being in life, overcoming obstacles that we face in real life as well. Because I find it truly amazing that on Twitter, everybody seems to have an opinion about everything and they're happy to share it. But in real life, they're just like a clam and they won't say anything, right? But you get them on social, you get them behind one of those alter ego type of things that really comes to life and discussion really happens. And so thanks for calling that out, Nix. I think I think that's definitely where we're headed with this conversation. So Mizzy, you had something you wanted to kind of flip over to based upon, I think, Doc's question. Maybe
I was
not.
asking how long people. I was asking how long people took to. What's like your average character creation time? Because I'm like, I used to like break out the mirror and be like, trying to make like the perfect me to be part of the game, right? Because I was like, I want to be me, man. I wanted to be me.
I think
romancing some Khajiit
I would say at
in
least
the
2 hours.
Skyrim.
I think
2
Shao
hours?
takes the longest
I would
time
say
on
at
this
least
chat.
2 hours.
Too funny.
2 hours
2
for
hours.
character development?
Yeah, at least 2 hours. Like nowadays, I just recreate Mizzy because it's kind of like a thing, right? But before, yeah, about 2 hours usually. Like I'm running it. I'm doing the whole character creation process. I'm sending my sister, who ironically also goes by the name Nix. I'm sending her a DM or a message or a text somewhere, and I'm like, "Yo, what do you think?" Because she's like my creative, like she's like my creative, like tastemaker, confidant person. So I'm always like, "Yo, what do you think about this?" She'll give me like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Then I'll show like one of the homies, and then I'll like go back on it, and then I'll probably change it another time, do it again, and then I'm done. But yeah, it always takes like 2 hours. Like I'm really fucking annoying
like,
when it comes to
have you
character
played
creation.
yet? And I'm like, no, not yet. Like same thing with like map designers, like on City Skyline. I'll just sit there and I'll like make a map for 3 hours and won't even play the game. Shao, how long does it take you to design your characters, man?
Uh, it used to be when I had more free time, I would definitely spend anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes. I wouldn't go too far because I would always get anxious, I guess, because if you think about it in some form or fashion, right? It's like the more meticulous, the more detailed you have, I feel like you're building up expectations. And so
Mm,
for me, it's similar to like character development. I would kind of go in raw. You know what I mean? I would just get
right.
the basic things that I want. I want to make sure I have the right hair. Hair was very key for me, and then like the right like outfit, and when it came to actual like the facial profile, I would just get something similar. I mean, I think my problem, in this regard, actually has a lot to do with identity, right?
Mhm.
Growing up Asian in America, but not aligning with either, and then not having a lot of role models growing up, it was just trying to fit in. And so it kind of leaned into the characters I built, the personas that I kind of leaned into, even my
Mhm.
name, right? The
Yeah.
Shaolin.
Yeah.
It's really something that took on its own life because of the historical cultural value, or like the um, significance of like martial arts, and the philosophy behind that. And so it was easy to kind of be part of something without having to be part of it per se. And then I
Mhm.
kind of utilized that into like how I evolved into my gaming persona as well. And the funny part is the Shaolin seems like a great Web3 name, but it's literally my um, pseudonym in gaming since I was a child.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of one of those things. I think on my own personal journey, it's I'm always configuring and changing and doing things. But what I realized as a kid too is just being authentically myself and how I um, navigate the space as well as just the games, and just trying to both accomplish like what I love about gaming now is that you can just get into these endless side quests, or even like open worlds like Fortnite and like Minecraft. You just like while everyone's doing something important, I'm just gonna go and mess around and like
Yeah.
dig
Yeah.
holes until I get to the bottom of the ocean. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's me too.
So I think that's just it just comes down to where you are in life. But I think for me, I didn't spend too much time because I feel like I always had to like again fit in, and being too unique or too um it just felt like it wasn't as true for me because I'm kind of a chameleon. So I
Right.
actually, even if I think about it, right, one of my latest love has been getting into anime, and what I love though is that like when you have this world that's been created and curated, what's great is there's so many anime that literally just is about gaming. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like these two
Mhm.
worlds that have this inception, and so I've been kind of leaning into that too because I love games that where you have like multiple like multiverses and kind of how you
Mhm.
look into this stuff. And I think what's great about that from a character perspective is just kind of how you build yourself and how you look at yourself. So I know that was a very broad, and we got
No,
into
it's
these
it's
like
good,
rabbit
man.
holes, but I think it
Yeah.
kind of gives you a little perception of
Well, that's like a
an
key.
opposite to me.
That's awesome. And that's like if you watch Shangri-La Frontier, like
Hmm.
the whole way he
100%.
designs his character is like a main plot point of the story, which is an
Yeah, yeah,
awesome
yeah,
anime, man.
yeah.
Oh God, I love that
But
one.
it's what it's one of my go-tos now. That's why when season 2 finished, I was like, dude,
So much
why did
fun.
it stop? Like, why this
Yeah,
point?
yeah, I know.
I love it. Love it. So yeah, I'm curious too, like when you guys do your character developments as well, do you pick like a kind of a narrative flow, or like a specific archetype to work with and then start designing the look, the feel, the aesthetic, appearance of the character? Or do you kind of just let the creative juices flow and then create the backstory?
Oh man, that's hard. It's like Eve Online, right? They would drop you. They would drop the most like radical, detailed character creator ever. So that's already like 6 hours of my day gone. And then I have to read about the different factions that you can start as, right? And then think about how that's going to mess with me in the economy. But then also consider, what do their ships look like? Are they cool? What are the advanced ships like? Are they cooler? Do I see me flying one of those ships? Oh man, but is that gonna mess me up because my job or whatever? Like Eve Online is the most, for me, it was like the hardest to get started in thing because I couldn't get past the, the actual creation of the thing, because it's like not just the look. I've got to think about all this other stuff, because it's not just like Horde and Alliance. There's 3 or 4 different things you could go to, and all of that has stylistic choices as well. But it's like I like this job thing, but I don't like the way they look. I feel like I do like this, but I don't agree with that piece of the lore and the story. So that one would always trip me up, and that's why I never got too far in it. I did get far in it after a while, but I stopped playing that.
My first jump into lore was actually really interesting. So I had just watched Berserk the anime for the first time. I was like 8, and
What?
I mean, yeah.
That explains a lot.
It does explain a lot. Yeah, I was like 8, and obviously Guts made a huge impression on me, right? Like I was running around with Guts PFPs on the internet for like 10 years after that, and I was just like really like it introduced me to like stoicism. It like got me into so many things, and I was obsessed with Guts and Berserk and the whole thing. And I mean, I've seen that anime. Like by the time I had turned 10, I had already seen it like 20, 30 times. Like, read the mangas. It was bad, but the funny part with my introduction to lore was my mom was my WoW raid leader, right? So I'm 10.
Oh,
This is when
sweet.
I'm 10 now, right?
I love that.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make my WoW character and I'm gonna play a warrior because I want to be like Guts. And my mom's like, well, I need a fucking healer, so
You got
a
denied?
paladin Guts, yeah. Uh, and I was like, she was like, you can still use like a sword, like you'll be all good. Because I was just like obsessed with the idea of like the huge broadsword, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm
Hey, at
running
least you
around as
didn't
this,
make it be a dwarf engineer or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, exactly. I'm running around as this paladin healer called Guts. So I'm like doing the thing, I'm like role playing it too, and I'm just like running around. Like I made like a bandit guild, like outside of my mom's guild, and I was like doing the whole thing. And then I finally get to the part that I start raiding, and like I actually turned out to be a pretty decent healer. I was trolling a bunch of horde players one day inside of Warsong, and I get banned. Like I get my name gets banned, and I have to like find a way to create. I have to basically create a new name, and that was like I felt so stripped of my identity at that point because you remember I'm like 10, 11 years old, right?
Yeah.
That I wrote like a whole lore behind my name change. And like I wrote like a whole lore about how my character got to his name being Guts, and it was actually like he was this former. I mean, it was pretty shitty because I was 10, but I'll tell it
Sure.
anyways because I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
So he was like this former warrior that had actually been raised by orcs outside of like Orgrimmar, and then he made his way and like with his own bare hands like crossed all the fucking lands, made it all the way back to Stormwind, killing all the orcs along the way. It like turns into this paladin type character because he's like reforming after like his super violent past. And then like the final change of that experience was him switching from Guts to what I ended up calling my paladin, which was Renshai. I was reading the book called the Renshai series. I don't know if
Mhm.
anybody's familiar with
Mhm.
that, but yeah, so that was kind of like my first introduction to creating lore around my character. And then ever since then, there was always like, I never developed like a full fledged lore, but there was always kind of just like a little bit of a backstory if people would ask me. There is always some sort of backstory with like any, obviously D&D character I played, any WoW character I played. Like there's always like a little fun tidbit that I always write up for myself just for shits and giggles.
That's
I
cool,
love
man.
that.
I love that.
Some of my best characters have been D&D characters for sure.
Well, that's how Mizzy started. He was actually my D&D character.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my characters that I'm playing right now, we're kind of playing the Middle Earth uh, version, and yeah, this guy he has a stone arm. It's just imagine like this rock that's completely just like one of those stone characters, and he got it because he was trying to rip off one of these like magical swords that was too powerful for him, and so he got cursed with this like huge rock, and so
Oh
it's
shit.
like as clumsy as can be, and
That dex roll must be a nightmare.
oh, it totally is, but that's what makes it fun, right? Trying to sneak through a
Yeah.
camp and all of a sudden your hand just starts going nuts and knocks over stuff and alerts
Holy shit.
everybody, and now you start World War III and it's all over. But yeah, I mean those are way fun. And I think that a lot of people that do play D&D get get it when it comes to story arcing, being able to create the lore, being able to create a lot of the
Yeah.
like persona kind of stuff. And I think that that really resonates over with people like we just talked about with the whole profile, right? And yeah, it was interesting. Thanks for sharing your guys' stories about how your profile pics came to be. I wonder what Steve's story is with his. His is a pretty cool profile pic.
You're talking. Oh yeah, I'm back. My person didn't actually join the call, so it was kind of short. Which profile pic?
Just your face. I'm just giving you a rough
That's just
time.
me. Like, what happens if I mute my? Yeah, like I just have the basic one that you've got, at least on Streamlabs here. As far as I don't even know what my at least the one for my Twitter account is just like I just like that picture. Someone took it while I was doing a presentation during GDC a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, that's better than the other one that I was using, so I'll use that. On Telegram, I just grabbed that randomly. It's some AI generated character that I was like, I don't remember exact. I was going down a rabbit hole of AI generated art and just kind of liked that one and stuck with it. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I don't really have a story behind that one. So it's just I like that particular AI rendering. And it wasn't even supposed to be me. It was just like I don't remember even what the prompt was, but I liked it. At some point, I need to synchronize my profile picture across basically every platform, but I don't really want to do that on Telegram because Telegram is full of scammers and bots.
Yeah.
So I don't like doing like really bad OPSEC on that platform. I don't really have a good story for any of my PFPs. I know a lot of people do. I just don't. I'm boring and lazy that way. I just go with
We'll
something that I think looks good.
we'll get you a good one. We'll get you a good one.
I'm sure I'll get a good one at some point here.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, for everybody that's tuning in, we've been at this now for a little over an hour, uh, and as was previously mentioned, this is something that we've been kind of putting together for weeks and weeks, just kind of getting everybody's schedules kind of coordinated and everything. But one of the main objectives that for us doing this is that one, the character development isn't a topic that's really talked about too much. But number two is there's a lot of great artists and a lot of creative people out there in the Web3 space, either playing the games, working in Web3, and we wanted to come together and give some back to those that might be tuning in. So that's where I kind of want to take the kind of back half of this conversation today is, let's talk about giving some mentoring advice, some tips for anyone who's interested in getting into this space, because there is definitely plenty of room, lots of things to innovate on, that's for sure. So with that being said, what is the number one advice that you would give to somebody that's looking to get into character development, specifically around gaming, movies, entertainment, that kind of thing?
Well, I'd like to say that it's super easy to find a place to go here. It's not always the case, but I think there are some great places like Forgotten Runes is a good start for building, for getting your NFT and writing that lore and having it actually be put in the book of lore, and then having those characters be in the game and taking your little picture and like they're doing it right. I think that's a good place. There's a lot of smaller groups and communities about, that are about they kind of like coalesce between film and writing and things like that. It's a good place. I wish there was a better directory, to be honest with you, to just for like creatives to come, because my daughter, she's 21 or will be, and she's got this huge book of a world that she's built and characters and stories, and she doesn't know what to do with it. I'm like, come to Web3, but even sometimes I don't even know where I would put her. Right. There are avenues, there are places. And I think as we go forward, especially with like AI and some of the tools that we can make that are going to help people tell stories, there'll be more and more stuff to come along. I mean, like I'm sure Shaolin, I mean, could talk about story protocol as well. I mean, that's legitimately like what they do. I'll let him speak to that. But this as far as like big umbrella stuff, and but yeah, there are great places to go. I think we just need to do a better job of promoting that over promoting the ridiculous casino Ponzi crap here. But I'll save that I'll save that discourse for another show. That's the spirit though of what we're trying to do though, right? I mean, like,
Uh, uh,
not the Ponzi, the good stuff.
no, what you're
Thanks
putting
for
down.
clarifying that.
So yeah, so what's actually really interesting in Story Protocol is, they actually have onboarded a lot of experience, people within the entertainment space, people, artists, creatives. And what's interesting about it is, how you define IP. And what's interesting in this Web3 world is obviously AI is a huge component and a big part of it. But the biggest part about IP is understanding, the meta of, where people are. And right now, co-creation is a big and huge factor in that. And even remix culture, right? You take existing things and you remix it to personalize it and to kind of breathe life into it. And there's actually a project called Emergence, and it's actually through David S. Goyer, who's a phenomenal character, story development, right? We talk about, the Dark Knight trilogy and so many more other films and other things that he's built. The real reason why I mention this too, though, is because it is co-created based. It's a sci-fi universe, and what you can actually do. And to be honest, it's so perplexing to me right now because even to get into the Discord, you have to read like and scroll through all of their lore and better understand and unlock the mystery. And I was like, I ain't got all time for that. I'm in too many things in Web3. But I will tell you the first 20 minutes while I was diving into it, I found it really compelling because storytelling really comes down to um, really setting a fundamental foundation in ways of like what that world is. And what I love about the concept of this is, understanding that that actually is IP itself, right? Character development, stories, universes. And what they do is they actually emerge it with the wireframe of what David has put together for this world. And you pick factions and you pick different things. So it's kind of very much like an RPG or choose your own adventure. And what's
Mhm.
phenomenal about that in Web3 is if you want to get into it, it's anywhere from that you can experience and engage, interact, and co-create with other people. But you pick your faction, you pick your worlds, you pick all these different things, and you just start storytelling and you start character development. And whether it's just playing your part and exploring it, or actually creating the dynamic, right? So it's like you build your town, you pick a role. It's kind of one of those things, and I haven't fully got into just because again haven't had the opportunity to immerse myself in it. But I love that concept because um, when you have someone who's been able to create an entire world, right? And you can think of so many things, whether it's like Games of Thrones or even like James Bond, right? There's
Mhm.
always a setting, a place, and I feel like the fact that we're now doing this on the blockchain with story is a really compelling opportunity for people to dive deeper into the things that they normally love, and it's kind of a cool thing, in my opinion, because it's not uh, financially incentivized. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, at some point in time there'll be tokens and people will be rewarded, and people will benefit from the creations. And if people use it right, I think what's interesting is you fractionalize it and you can get royalties and micro licensing, and everybody from a decentralized perspective gets to really benefit from a really wonderful ecosystem. Now, I'll be honest, this is still emerging. This is still new. That was a little tongue in cheek, given that it's called emergence. But it's good to be part of that bleeding edge of understanding what's possible and how to do these things in a way that makes sense. Because if you can do this and be a part of something, it hopefully can create that genesis for you to really do things potentially on your own, or work with wonderful people that we have on stage to create a world, a game, a place for people to go to and express themselves. So I love what they're doing there. But again, I do have to take the time to dive deeper into it as a product, but I love the concept as all. And I met the team, and they're very critical thinkers in terms of what's possible and how you can kind of unlock the experiences in terms of UI, UX, and of course, just the universes that you play a part in.
Is that emergence.site? Is that what it is? Do you know the
No,
website
it's Emergence
or the Twitter?
Universe. Yeah,
Emergence Universe.
it's
Okay.
or
All right. I'm
sorry,
gonna.
that's the website, but the Twitter
Oh,
handle is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Emergence Verse. Yes.
I was just doing a little googling. So okay, cool. I'm gonna check that out. Sounds cool.
Yep. And then they're actually what's kind of cool. The biggest tagline of the pin post is they're working with WME. So you're talking about working with some of the powerhouses in IP and people who represent creators. So this is the decentralized world where you're able to do so much more for yourself, and no one gets to hold your hands. You have some guardrails, but you could explore this in a way that wasn't really possible before.
Yeah.
So the idea of story is like it allows you to decentralize IP. That's essentially like what it is.
Well, it's just more like they have the framework, right? So they have the general IP, and then as you co-create, you basically do a remix, a co-creation of the existing IP. So if your work is a contribution, then you get a fractionalized portion, you get a license to it. So they come in generally for the actual the bigger product, but as you get into the details, into the other things, you'll be able to like micro license and do things like that. So it's pretty cool in that regards because again, right? If you're talking about Web 2, it's like you either own it all, which is the behemoth, or you own nothing.
Mhm.
You're just a
Yeah.
what do you call it? A consumer.
Got it. Oh, that's pretty cool. To the original question, Cody, it was about how to start with character development, essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah, what kind of tips or
I'm,
Yes.
I'm,
advice
I'm
or resources
okay.
would you recommend?
I mean, I wasn't. I would say when it came to character development, as with designing anything, I learned in my time as a creative director. I used to design for a couple of well-known brands out in LA, and I did it through a creative agency. But you end up learning that with anything creative, you really have to know yourself, right? Like, what are the references that you're going to use? What's going to become your signatures? What are the stories that you like to tell? Where is your expertise? And you really don't know that until you like start to actually take out the time to figure that shit out. Like, get to know who you are. Like, I could probably go on like a 10-minute rant about why my character's hair is pink, why his glasses are red, and why there's like dragons on his cardigan. Like I can spend like 10 minutes each because they're all very deeply personal and like well informed things that I made conscious design decisions on. I feel like when you're developing a character, it's very similar. Whether it's from your own inspiration internally or things that you're a fan of. I think like having a clear understanding for who, what you are, what you're into, what you like, what you don't like, and it being a genuine thing because you start to kind of pull from your subconscious a lot, and then you kind of start seeing these recurring themes pop up a bit, and then you start recognizing, oh, that's a pattern. Like maybe I should learn like why I do that so often or why I prefer to set up characters these ways or designs these ways. Then I would say like I was fortunate enough to always kind of have like a fantasy RPG kind of friend circle, right? Like my
Hmm.
sister, my mom, we all and myself, we all played RPGs growing up. My sister's friends were always into like RPGs, so I'd sometimes like write, like made up stories or lore and like have her friends read through it and have them like give me feedback. I used to write like I call it fake books because I was never like, oh, I want to become an author, but I would like put together a story, right? And sometimes I'd post them up on like Wattpad and like put them in different like fan fiction sections because you get good feedback there, right? You're like, oh shit, like you create a fan fiction of a story that you want to tell, but you kind of use somebody else's IP, right? Like
Hmm.
how should Story Protocol should actually probably look into like fan fictions if they haven't already, because there's like a huge market for that. Like I remember when what's that book? 30 Shades of Grey started off as a fucking Twilight fanfic, right? Like because I used to read through the fan fiction Twilight section because my sister and I were really into that series. And like, yeah, obviously, like, super embarrassing to admit that now, right? But like, I was like 15, 16. I was like really into that shit. And I would like read through the fan fictions. And I remember reading like what eventually ended up becoming 50 Shades of Grey and being like, this is awful no one's gonna like it. And then like that was obviously not the fucking case. But it was, it's stuff like that. It's like you kind of get like an early beta test period almost, right? Like, and you get feedback there. Because you already have like a bunch of people in a community that are already passionate about this kind of topic. Like watching characters in like raw environments and things like that. So I would say like fan fiction communities, Wattpad, and then like taking a hard look at who the fuck you are, and like even mood boarding. Like I mood board on Pinterest, like at least I would say like 4 to 5 hours a week,
Interesting.
I
just to
love
kind
mood
of like
boarding.
see
Love that
where my
too.
taste levels are going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
awesome.
just to see where my taste levels are going, like what cars am I into, what clothes am I into, like why am I picking these color palettes, what am I think, like I'm always deciphering myself because I do a lot of things subconsciously. But then once I kind of get to like understanding them, it allows me to almost like manipulate and use it as a power.
That's cool, bro.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Next, from a branding perspective, I mean, it you do have to remain quite neutral on a lot of different things. Curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I actually really love this topic because one of my favorite parts of branding is actually, well, two things, but they're combined. It's personal branding, but more specifically, people that are in a position where they're leading from thought leadership or making a big splash in their specific industry. And then also people who are kind of taking a big leap for themselves. I love working with people like that they have a very big goal and they recognize they have blocks. Because to me, I think like personal branding is it's a very tough journey in the sense of like we tend to go through the process as if we're unraveling an onion, but also leveling up like a game character. Very much. There's a lot of things that are frightening with it, like everything about being visible, being transparent, being putting yourself in the spotlight and like risking something bad being attached to your name, public speaking, like some of the things that we have to do to curate a very powerful personal brand are some of the biggest fears that any of us will ever experience. So I love that. I also love when people collaborate with their personal brands in a business because I'm very big on making sure that one brand doesn't eat the other brand and that both brands have a very strong representation of who they are together and that they sort of make this like entity in a way, but there's still an essence of like all those three players being in place. I would say I love that from a personal brand perspective because it really what it always ties back down to is a lot of my own earlier background doing like life coaching and being very interested in shadow working and going through like all the different ways that we can overcome traumas and especially CPTSD. I also really love the redemption hero story as well. Some of my favorite people to speak to ever are actually people that have fucked up in life and they just decided I don't want to be that person anymore and I want to invent this new person that is actually a stronger representation of who I actually am beyond this narrative that I just keep playing out that somebody else put in my path that I kept making choices for unconsciously. I love working with people on all of those things. I find that the only way that I find that I can even support people through their brand narratives or positioning them well is by actually not leading and more so being a support character and more so like being a master of unblocking versus like the master of like telling someone how they're going to lead their path because I don't know like that's their journey like any interruption for me would just be it would be almost like shameful at this point. So on a personal branding level that's pretty much how I approach it and I always consider it some of like the biggest honors like the biggest honor for me to work with somebody on their personal brand but just from how I am and how deep I like to connect with people. I consider it a very huge honor to be that close with someone where I can be a companion for them for wherever they want to do or whatever they want to achieve. Because I know I get to experience, I guess, some of the most vulnerable moments in someone's, journey whenever they're trying to, conquer some sort of fear in that way. I would say also to the other question that I'm absolutely fascinated with is, like somebody who wants to start on their own journey. I find that it actually goes a little bit down to um, why a specific writer would choose a specific genre, or like why a gamer prefers a specific genre. It's I don't think we're really meant to love it all. We don't always connect to every single genre to the same depth as we would another one. And I think sometimes that's okay. We should kind of lean into that. Like, for instance, if I were to develop a game, which I actually would really love to one day, I would develop a game based on the things that I know and love really well, because I understand the nuances of developing a character where I could really hit home all of the steps that would resonate with people that have similar persona types like me. So I could take it to another layer of depth. However, if I were to pick that up with a different game that I'm not as close with, or I don't really resonate that deeply with, I probably wouldn't do it the same justice as someone else. Which a really funny comparison for that is, and I'm like, hopefully this doesn't insult anybody, as when I see guys trying to tell female stories. Sometimes I'm like,
Oh,
oh man, that's so
100%.
superficial. Like, why are you doing that? You're missing all the nuances. And then with all the women see it, we're just, we all are like, oh, dude directed that. Like, we all know. So I think that's the same thing with writing stories too. Like, I find that, like, for instance, young women, they tell the most interesting stories from a young female's perspective, like her, exploring like her first love. Like, those stories are some of the first to pop off in like all of those like book writing fan fiction websites, as an example. Or like even the women that are middle aged and they're sort of like, missing a little passion in their life, they make the most amazing dark romance novels. It's whatever it is, like, lean into it and just love it, because there's like people that really want to step into that world that you're creating. And it just, don't worry about you needing to be some other way. Like, you have a group of people that are basically waiting for you to explore whatever brainchild you come up with. That's me in a nutshell. I can go off on this, Cody.
You're so
I'm just
cool,
gonna stop.
Nix. Like
Oh yeah.
you're genuinely like so awesome. I
Thank
love you.
you.
I think you're amazing.
I think you're amazing.
Oh, thanks. Can I? But there's something that you said, you touched on it. It's having a place for everything, and just about story creation. Right now, I'm watching Voltron, the new one, with my daughter. Right, and it is so good. It's such a great, like, it starts as like nostalgia, but moves into this really great character-driven story. But anime is good about, it's like you don't have to like every game genre, but anime is kind of like almost built where you have these like five basic character archetypes, and there's going to be someone. It's like, do you like the red lion, the blue lion, the green lion, the yellow lion, etc., because they all have their like personalities, right? Like, I don't have to like guy A, but there's always somebody to fall in love with. And I think that's one thing that they do really, really well. So they can have these like very complex world building things around them, but you have like certain types of characters, and they're always going to be there. They're always going to be present. Even like the way that they voice act is very, very similar. So you know the kind of characters you're attracted to in general, but you can still experience this world. But while you were talking, that it made me kind of think about that kind of stuff. Like, is this something for everybody kind of thing when you're writing characters or making characters? Is like, also think about like, what's the interplay, like what's your baseline trait, and if you're creating something that's meant to be involved with other people or other stories, like what is the interplay between their personality and yours as well. But yeah, that's kind of a tangent, but everything you said was so rad.
Oh, thank you. I feel like anime does that so well sometimes. Like,
You do.
even I got to experience Naruto like the interplay between Naruto and Sasuke with my brother, with my mom, and my two daughters. Like we all loved, like we love Naruto more, we love Sasuke more, and like all the characters in their saga. Like there was always one that we really connected with, and whatever they were experiencing or how they were experiencing the world. And I always really create like a side story really well for characters without it like with while it's adding to the world where
Mhm.
you can almost see like how the friction between all the characters, the connection between all the characters, and what happens when two characters come together to sort of like create this new like saga just between the two of them. How it just really adds to the universe and makes us so addicted. Like
Mhm.
we want the whole side story. Like we want people to make the whole fan fiction and carry on the story into another universe so we can keep experiencing those characters over and over and over again. And I think that that's like why fan fiction is so marvelous in that way, because we actually do like we do bond over a character and we want them to like stay alive. You know, we want them to
Yeah.
stay alive in whatever world, you know, we want to carry them into.
Gosh, that's the
I mean,
truth.
like, right? Like, how long have we left? We kept Star Wars alive. I think I'm
Yeah.
just the biggest Star Wars junkie. Like,
Yeah.
we have
One of the
kept that
best
series
fanfics I
alive for so
ever
long.
one of the best Star Wars stories I ever read was a fanfic, and it was very well crafted, and it was all about like the very earliest days after Anakin becomes Vader. And it was so detailed and so good. I wish I could find it. But like my daughter's like, we have one episode of Voltron left, right? We watch it in the mornings and stuff like that. We have one left. And she's like, Dad, what are we going to do when it's over? I'm like, I don't know, because they didn't do a good job of making extra media for the newer Voltron, even though it's a fantastic show. I mean, I'm crying all the time. Like, she's like, you're crying? I'm like, yeah, how can you not be? Like, this is poignant, right? Because I get so deeply involved with the characters. But she's like, what do we do now? I'm like, I don't know. There's nowhere else to go. They screwed up the toy line. They screwed up the extra media. I think there might be a couple decent comic books, but like, she's like, we'll just start it over. Like, we better wait like at least a couple months. All right. But like, that's cool, you know? But yeah, keeping characters alive, 100,000%.
Yeah.
That's yeah, I mean that's really interesting. I'm gonna come at it from a little bit different of an angle. For me, when it comes to character design or just design in general, it's I'm a huge data guy. So for me, when I design things, I design for purpose. So like having a specific archetype or having a specific color to trigger certain emotion or certain reaction can really garner a lot of information about a person who connects with those type of characters, right? And so from there, I'm taking it from a different point of like, how can I utilize characters to basically, um, I don't want to say exploit or manipulate the user experience, but I want to try to enhance the user experience to the point where they become so enthralled with the game that they can't turn away from it, right? And that's been my wheelhouse for the last decade is coming up with those kind of technologies from the visual and kind of storyline basis. So for me, it's all about repetition. It's all about learning to love things. I wasn't a huge data guy except for about 15 years ago. I started to have to use it and I learned to love it, right? And I think that you guys all hit it on the head that you got to know it inside and out. And so whatever resources you can get your hands on are usually the best. I agree with you, Funk, that I think that I wish there were more places except for media forums and discussion groups, chat rooms that you can go into to kind of get this kind of training, but a lot of it is just hands-on experience. So for me, anyone that's interested in going into this space, freaking volunteer, reach out to different communities, reach out to different games and see if you can get involved in some way, shape, or form because that's pretty much, I think, how all of us got started in this Web3 space. So Am I wrong? Did somebody else get invited over here from the mainstream, or did you guys just
Hey,
come
just
over?
total red carpet. Just roll it out.
So I came in through agencies.
figured.
That's my funny story. Is I came in through agencies because at that time nobody wanted to touch Web3. Like nobody knew what to do with it. And me being me, I'm like, I'll do it. And before I knew it, the agency I was working with, I got all the Web3 projects just thrown in my lap. And then I loved it. Like I made the full transition over here.
Nice.
See, red carpet.
It's
I
funny.
knew it. Someone would have that red carpet.
Somebody.
I came into it. Yeah, I came into the general ethos of a DAO and basically volunteered and worked my way through until I got hired. So I
Nice.
think
Oh,
everyone
nice.
has a nice entry point where you kind of dive into the space and learn. And I think community, right, is a big deal. Because if you're just a bot that just trades, I mean, good for you. Hopefully you're making money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
One out of 100 that actually turns a profit.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And then look out for my next course. It'll have a discount code. And it's affordable.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I have an education class on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
I can teach you how to
experience-
make money too. Sorry,
Yeah, my
I'm done.
experience. No,
Go ahead.
you're fine. My experience coming over, I was an investor in a program, and oh my gosh, it had the worst UI I have ever seen in my life. And I I put together a 7-page deck on just simple things that they could improve. And you guys would all know this, that nav is the number one thing when it comes to design and UX experience that can make or break a website. And so didn't even focus much beyond that, just kind of reorganize things. I wasn't suggesting anything massive change wise, just reorganizing things. Crickets, right? And I kind of got frustrated a little bit, but hey, we're on social. Everybody's a little bit daring. So my next project I was involved with, I decided to put together a 40-page deck and presented that, revamping the whole entire ecosystem, and had the founder on the phone within 10 minutes of me hitting send on that. So it really does have to do with the type of community that you're in, the type of leadership that they have, if they're willing to listen to their community. But there are opportunities out there for anybody looking to get involved in some way, shape, or form. So, well, cool. Uh, Anybody else have anything they want to add? I just have a few more questions I want to cover, and then we can wrap this thing up.
Nope, I'm good. I mean, I was just stubborn. I just got here and I was just like, this is cool. I think I could probably figure out how to make money. Then I learned about smart contracts and I was like, and I've just been stubborn ever since. And I don't think they'd take me back anyway in the regular world. I scraped out any useful knowledge that remains, and it's all blockchain now. So
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I'd like to add that I am one of those bots. I'm 1 in 100. That's how I came into this space. And then I got kind of bored. And then I was like, let me do some shit around here.
that's cool. And then Mizzy and I met.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's actually like I met Doc early on into me pivoting into Web3 gaming, because I had been in like the DeFi and NFT space for a while. And there's like a wider lore there. I was just like kind of going through crypto because I was actually like coming off of losing my memory, because I had been hit with COVID so badly that I actually like forgot like half the shit that I did, like for my
wow.
job, like everything. So luckily I had some money saved away and I had to like sell my house, but throughout that process I had to like rehab my brain. And I met Doc basically like my first foray back into like social working environments after that experience. So I was just like playing D&D in this Discord server like 5 days a week as part of my rehab session. It was like a self-prescribed rehab because they're like trying to get me to do all this shit, and I'm like, if I do this stuff, it's just like playing D&D, so I just play D&D instead. So yeah, I had a good time like shitcoining and playing D&D. Luckily, I did make some money, but it was all luck. Like I thought I was a genius at the time, but no, not at all. and like I was able to make enough to kind of just like enjoy the space as like a speculative. Oh, I wouldn't say speculative from like a DGen perspective, but speculative like as like a watcher, right? Like a lurker.
Mhm.
And then like learning about like all the tech. Like I spent hours and hours and hours reading up on like NFT contract standards, smart contract, trying to consult with projects to get them to do like more IP, more like brand built media, because I had a thesis back then. The AI was basically like when I saw smart contracts, I was like, this is what AI is gonna do. Like,
Mhm.
like it was like very parallel to me, like with how smart contracts and their trustlessness work, and how AI like intertwines with that. So at the time, I started to become very passionate about branding, which is why what attracted me to the meme coin space, which is where I did have some luck, because I like the meme coins made sense to me. I was like, hey, if you attach tech to this, like this is the moat is the brand, right? It's not being the 50th swap or the
Mhm.
50th marketplace or whatever piece of tech we have. It's like the brand itself. So I got really passionate into that side of things, and obviously I was like always been a gamer my whole life, so I was looking
Right.
at Web3 gaming from the beginning, but I was not impressed with what I saw. It's hard to convince a dude that's been playing the quality of games that I was playing growing up to like go play Axie Infinity or anything like that. Like, I'm not saying that it's not objectively successful for its region, it is, but I was not the target demographic. So I was just like, let me hold off for a while and then like wait until I start seeing projects that I find interesting. um, when I finally started seeing, teams become a little more front facing and start to showcase the projects that they were like starting to represent, that's when I was like, all right, cool. Like, let me check this Web3 gaming thing out, run into Doc. And then like I did start off in the Web3 gaming space, like very casually, like volunteering around. Like I did some art for one of the projects that Doc works with, helped them like refine their IP. Well, worked with at the time,
Mhm.
helped them refine their IP. And then I kind of just went on and founded my own communities because I was kind of like realizing that the Web3 gaming space specifically was missing culture. It
Mhm.
just did not have any culture at the time, and we kind of like both of the companies that I helped found, like that I co-founded, like that was what we focused on in different subsects. Like one way more esports and competitive focused, and the other one way more like traditional silly gamer media kind of vibes.
No, I love that. Love that. And I mean, that's why we're having this space, right? Is to kind of learn everybody's backstory of things and go for. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. It is very interesting to see how everybody has kind of come into this space for sure. Steve, how did you come into this space?
I've talked about that a lot, and I don't even at this point know where to truly define it because generally, if you're asking when I got into Web3, that is not when I got into crypto. Because when I got into crypto, there was no Web3. It was just Bitcoin. That was it. It was 2011. Bitcoin was the only thing in town. And my story is relatively unique because the people who took down Silk Road told me I should get into Bitcoin. The FBI was the ones who turned me on to it. Not the FBI like in general, but one specific guy that I knew and I played sports with at the time. And there were a bunch of other people on our team that took that same advice and went on to do things like found Solana. So yeah, I got in earlier than almost anybody else. But I didn't really consider it Web3 for quite a while because, again, there was no Web3. Web3 really started in about 2015 when Ethereum started doing its thing. Before that, there was no real Web3. There were a couple of other alts. Litecoin was a thing, Dogecoin was a thing, but nobody called it Web3. Nobody was really building anything. It was just some experimentation on the basic model that Bitcoin had originally created. But there were no like projects. Nobody, what we consider today to be Web3 did not begin until Ethereum. And so when you ask when I got into Web3, that was several years later. I remember watching Ethereum thinking, oh, this could be interesting. I never bought any. But I actually started doing stuff in quote unquote Web3 in 2018 when someone did roll out the red carpet for me. 'Cause I'd been in the Bitcoin and crypto space for quite a while, and I had been doing a lot of stuff in the political sector and building a lot of technology products and solutions for, well, I was working on a startup that was building legal solutions at the time. And that was an interesting startup, but it ended up going the way of the dinosaur when COVID hit. But as I was networking to build that company, I ran into a woman who was dating the U.S. representative for Liberland, which, if you have not heard of Liberland, it is a country, a physical country. You could call it the first DPIN project in crypto. It's a physical country that sits on the Danube River between Serbia and Croatia. It's about 7 square kilometers in size. And the entire country's government infrastructure is built on blockchain. But at the time, that was just theoretical. In 2018, there was none of that. And it was just, we want to put all of this on chain. They build themselves as the first blockchain country, but there was no chain or anything at that time. So I was asked to come in to help with a bunch of unrelated to crypto things. And then once I got everything spun up for them to do a bunch of stuff in the US and start formalizing relations with all sorts of stuff, then it started transitioning into actually building like blockchain technology stuff, because I just had a lot of experience from working in tech previously and having watched all of the failures of what we're now calling Web3, which still continue to this day. I've cataloged basically every failure in my head as we have progressed, and do my best to avoid all of those and everything that I actually do. So a lot of that informed the design for Liberland's blockchain. I helped them write the white paper, design a lot of the systems, engineer. I didn't engineer any of the systems, but I did help to kind of framework out the architecture for a lot of it. And I helped with the white paper a lot. So that's kind of how I actually started building in Web3. But then when COVID hit was when I really just went full in 100% of the time, because the startup I was building died. We lost our funding, we lost our customers, our tech stack became obsolete. And basically it was a perfect storm. So everything got rendered completely void all at once in 2020, and the company couldn't survive, and I had to close it down. And trying to figure out what I was going to do next, someone that I had met previously while I was speaking at a conference for Liberland invited me to come down to Bitcoin 2021. And we just kind of picked up some people there and started working on something that they were doing, and didn't really go that well, but that was kind of how I started focusing mostly in Web3 for my professional career. And then I ended up building this. But yeah, that's a lot of pivots.
That's the way, baby.
Pivots.
The
grind.
I got some stuff I wrote.
You got to respond to market forces.
Yeah, I still have stuff I wrote in 2019. Maybe it's when NFTs were first starting to come around, because I was really into DeFi games, right? I thought it was fun and cool, but there's better ways to do it, like a yield farm and to make games. But I still have this whole treatment I wrote because I didn't know how I was gonna because there's nothing made yet to be able to use NFTs as characters or do any of this stuff. So I started with a DeFi game about the Large Hadron Collider, but then that had a story to it, and that had an end, and then that was supposed to go into a yield farm that was the advanced way far in the storyline. I'm not going to give it all away because I still want to use it someday. Maybe not with the Ponzi DeFi shit in it, and then that was going to go into a virtual tabletop game in the future. But I still have all that written out from 2019. It's just there was just nothing built to actually make that yet. Plus, I didn't really know anybody and couldn't get anybody to fund me, and had no money myself. Not a lot's changed there. But no. This kind of stuff has always been on my mind since I figured out oh man, we can do some really cool stuff here. But
yeah,
I do have to.
Earnscape started out similarly. It was an NFT game. Yeah, that was when the previous thing I was working on in Web3 just kind of it didn't go belly up until after I left. But when I was on the way out the door, the original concept that I left to build instead was a purely 100% on-chain NFT game. And then it just continually got different, added more stuff, turned it into like a whole metaverse style game, then developed it into a series of interconnected mini games that were on mobile. So yeah, lots of pivots, but yeah, I'd still like to get back to that concept.
It was a good one, man. That's when we started. It was that. I do kind of have to run though. It's my kid's bedtime, guys.
No problem.
Got to
So
do the
I'll
thing.
just ask. Yeah, no problem. I'll just ask this last question real quick. I'm kind of curious everybody's take. There is a lot of time, there is a lot of effort that goes into creating these characters, the backstories, the little intricate details of them that make them very unique. With the role of AI coming in, starting to take over the whole customization for player engagement within games, everything like that. Do you guys see this as a pro or a con in what you guys are doing for game development? Meaning, do you guys have to shift what you're doing, or do you think it'll just add as a complement?
Major pro.
Both.
Yeah. I mean, it's a major pro for story building and figuring out new ways to interact with games. I don't want a bot playing for me because unless it's like a god sim and I'm like, that's part of the management and stuff like that. But as far as like making characters and making persistent worlds and blurring the line between what's playing what or who's playing who, like, I think that's really cool. Plus, it's going to give tools to a lot of kids and youth out there to be able to take ideas and just with their phone be like, I want a blah 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 blah, right? And help shape, like release creativity where maybe they didn't have the option before. And I think that's the coolest thing of all is AI is going to unleash like this insane wave of creative thinking, and it's going to turn everything that we think we know about creating characters and stuff on its head. Right now, we're just kind of like repackaging it into the stuff that we already know. But at some point, someone's going to come along and think about how to use this in a way that's completely different. And it's going to be like so dynamic that it's going to blow everybody's minds, I think, just like with anything.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little philosophical here, and I'm going to say that the most perfect game, the ultimate game, is life, real life. And the closer that we can get to creating a virtual game, a digital reality, a digital world that mirrors real life and all of its various mini games that we play. I'm playing the streaming mini game right now with 5 other people. And, some of you who are watching this are passively observing it as you're doing other things. You're playing your own little mini games in the game of life. And, playing a game on a computer or a phone, that's a mini game in the game of life. And the more that we can create a virtual reality, not like VR headsets, but a true reality in the virtual world that mirrors as closely as possible the physical world and the life that we all share out here, the more people are going to become I'm not even sure what word I want to use, so I'll just say immersed in it. And the more people will become invested in it, the more people will become emotionally attached to what goes on in it. We already see this approaching sort of a zenith right now with people more or less living their lives on their phone, with the physical world becoming a complement to that, rather than how it's been for previous generations, at least my generation, probably Gen X as well, where the digital world was kind of a complement to your physical world. We're getting closer to the point where that singularity will basically occur. And AI is going to greatly accelerate the point at which we get there, because it's going to make it a whole lot easier for all these individualized, customized experiences that you have in the real world to be replicated in the digital world. So I think that AI is going to greatly increase the viability for people to effectively live their entire lives, maybe not their entire lives, but the vast majority of their lives in the digital world. And you can say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that could go either way. I think it's kind of a bad thing that we are basically transferring our entire consciousness into these digital realities, and the AI is going to make all the characters around us become so much more vivid and real, and something that we become super emotionally attached to. that we start to probably neglect some of the comparatively bland things in the real world. Kind of like how kids really love watching these screens that have bright, vivid colors everywhere, and explosions and sounds and things that you can't see in the real world. That's I think that's only going to become a much more accelerated trend. It's great for games. It's going to make the game so much more powerful, so much more addicting, so much more interesting, so much more valuable. Even you'll get to the point where you can effectively live your life in these digital worlds, where you're producing value in a digital reality, selling it to someone else who needs the value that you've created, and then that value has real world value. And this is where the crypto comes into play, in my opinion, because of all these things are digitally on a chain, and you can be verified that you have this and it's unique, and that this is yours. Then when you sell that to another person in a game, maybe you cash that out for real world money, and then you improve your real world life. But I think that AI is really going to accelerate that trend, where everything goes more or less into a digital reality. And then the question is, how many times has this happened before? We're living in the Matrix, more
Oh,
or less.
geez.
Yeah, like
Now you're
I told
going
you, I
all
was going to get
Inception on us.
philosophical with this. Like, for all you know, this is just a recursive loop that's already happened. Maybe we're like 5 or 6 layers deep.
Who knows?
We are.
That's why I'm going to my fractal portal as soon as this show's over. I'll see y'all. See y'all in the Ultraverse.
I mean, technically, like, I'm in 3 simulations all at once right now.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All of us are at least in one right here.
What makes all of this, kind of to ground all of this is, technically we are, right? When you look at the internet and the way we're able to traverse space and time in terms of connecting people from all over the world instantaneously, right? It just shows you where it is. I think the one thing that I learned the other day listening to a space was that AI itself, though, is why it's so powerful as a tool, is because it's not limited by the brain. And the fact that it can be able to scale far exponentially than the human mind will help create these dynamic worlds, metaverses, ARs, whatever, however you want to, whatever medium you choose to kind of delve into is impactful. But I think what's really interesting, though, is how limited will it be as well, right? So I think when it comes to creating worlds and the possibilities of what we've created with regards to like gaming, right, and simulations, yes, it'll be able to do that probably a lot faster than anyone will ever expect, especially given all the compute power that's being generated, right? We keep worrying about Bitcoin mining and the energy it takes, but imagine AI being just unleashed. But what I will say, though, is one of the things I actually talked to Nick's about is whether that world will have the emotion, the personal experiences, the creativity of how humans relate. And I think that's where you'll see where the rubber meets the road in the reality of what we call life. Because in the end, will AI be able to raise children? Because I will tell you, as a human, it's through life experiences, and you never know. The first thing I learned about parenting was you have zero control over your life. And it was one of the biggest challenges I think AI will have to learn too. So it's just one of those things that, whenever I talk to different people, and again, Nix is a good friend, we just explore how the innovation that we deal with and how the humans tend to kind of work through the transformation, right, of this digital age and this on-chain age. So we'll have to see where it goes. But I definitely love AI because it just helps you scale, helps you move things so much more quickly. And it works when you're not working, you know what I mean? So whether you create an agentic agent, it's really impactful and powerful. And I think too, I've started using prompts for education, and it really just shows you outside of the networking capabilities of going to a college or university and even high school, man, information as at the tip of your hands. Obviously, fact checking and sourcing and those things do also matter, but just the fact that you can do that now, and I just see an infinite possibility for, I have a 10-year-old, and I just think, man, if I put this in his hands, where could he go with this? You know what I mean? And so I think whether how far this reaches is another story. But the other flip of the switch is that Story Protocol is also managing a lot of this through TCP/IP connections, so that AI agents can actually communicate autonomously. Now, how far off the rails it goes is another story, but I feel we're all pondering the limits of and the possibilities of this world that we're living in today.
100%. Anything from Nix or Mizzy before we sign off?
Apologies, I was in the middle of eating. I didn't want to speak with my mouth open full, but speak with my mouth open. Holy shit. Anyways, but I mean, I'm a big fan of what AI can do for like creatives, right? I think that now we're gonna get into an era where creativity and brand are gonna be your moat. I think that even that will only last for a certain period of time. I think that's like we got like a nice 15-year window to be creative as fuck before the AI learns how to be original on its own. Then it'll be kind of interesting to see how that experience goes, right? You know, similar to what Shaolin just said. I mean, the level of education that you can get from these things is actually fucking amazing. Like, I'm like speed running my learning processes on new things that I'm trying almost like daily at this point, which is a really, really good, which is really good for me, and it's like at the same time, the amount of time it used to take me to be able to learn something, then get to execution is like almost non-existent. It's like I'm executing as I'm learning, which is always very cool. That's always how I've done it, but now it's like 10x. Yeah, and I mean, I have a lot of, I guess, similarities to how Steve feels. Despite being someone that does, come on the internet and LARP as an anime character, part of me does get concerned about a world where we're just so logged into the internet and the metaverse and all that we almost forget what it's actually like to be human. So I don't know how that ends up playing out for someone like myself. Maybe in 15 years I just subscribe off of the fucking internet and go live in a fucking cabin somewhere, and that'd be cool.
We
And
all
then kind
do
of just
that.
like let Mizzy do his thing as this personality that was inspired by mine, and like that's, if I'll be honest, if anybody were to ask me like what my next 10 to 20 years looks like, it's probably something like that. Like I'm creating content with the character, so it's like it takes its own life at some point and it kind of does its own thing, but it's like I was the origin point. Very experimental. I don't know how it's gonna work, but kind of fuck around and find out along the way.
Yeah.
That's what Song a Day guy. I love him so much, and he's worked really hard on making like his like AI version that's going to make a song a day too. I know he put a lot of time into it. I don't know how it's like performing, but I think that's really cool because he's been trying. I know he put a lot of himself in the like training of the agent and getting the tools together and stuff. So it's not just like shitty Suno songs or whatever it's called. Like I think that's pretty cool. Where it's just going to be a life of itself. But yeah.
I totally agree. All right, Nix, bring us home.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm a big fan of it. I think for me, I look at it differently because I'm very aware of. I'm not always. I don't always. I wouldn't say I'm bulletproof to it, but I'm very aware of the ways that neuromarketing works. And I'm a little bit fearful of AI actually uh, learning. Well, obviously, it already learns these things, but being able to actually implement these things in a way for the betterment of people or the worse for people. I sort of see this as like a way for us to help a lot of people, and then a way for others to sort of, I don't know, I want to say make worse some of the scenarios that we play over and over and over again in the world. And as an example, um, I love the idea of AI bringing in a world of more personalization, because I think it creates a more dynamic multiverse in a way where people that usually cannot coexist together can actually coexist with the support of AI, being in a way a buffer between people. And what I mean by that is oftentimes um, most of us are entering in some sort of, I don't know, like game or world or workplace or social setting where it's not tailored well for us, and so it's outside of our ability to adapt in that moment. And I think that that's such an interesting opportunity, I guess, for people to actually live inside of a game world, a virtual world, as an example, to learn skill building before entering into the real world and like actually doing that as a person. I love that for neurodiverse people. I think that offers a lot of opportunity, especially for people that might have like one thing that holds them up. For instance, like if you're like a kid and you're doing great in mathematics, but you're doing really awful at like reading interpretation, thinking that like AI can actually support you through something that's holding you back so that you can still keep going forward with what you're really great at, sort of like a companion or a buddy in the form of an NPC, or the auto adjusting of the world, or an auto adjusting of the levels, and it sort of supports you in that process. I think that's amazing. I also could see that as being something that we adapt to, where we think that everything has to be kind of auto adjusted for us. Makes me kind of like love being close to the Gen X era when where everything was like you really had to like figure out everything for yourself. I very much honor that part of my upbringing, and I definitely raise my own kids that way. I can also see that as being a way where people leverage that part of tech and actually use that to like push agendas forward, or actually make people more divisive, or actually like put, you know, random agendas inside of a game, and it like slowly like, you know, affects somebody's perception about like a group of people, or like some sort of theory, or like some sort of methodology or something, because our brains adapt according to how much exposure we have to it. We're malleable, all of us are. It's just some of us are a little less malleable than others. Um, I see a lot of like fear coming up, but I saw that with the internet, and I saw that with everything else. I mean, AI is very scary. It's a beast that I don't think all of us know stepping into. And I still find it very exciting to me, like as a creative. Like I see that as like so much opportunity to put a lot of great things into the world that think I kind of help people, especially as being someone that doesn't always have like all of the pieces available to me. um, AI sometimes becomes like my companion in creation, and making sure I get to something to the end. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's it in a summary. I'm overall very bullish about AI. I mean, ask me again in 20 years and I might say something different. But right now I'm very bullish about it.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense, and I think that's a great place to kind of end this. I don't want to add anything more to that because I think everybody's pretty much said what needs to be said about AI, and I think we're all in agreement there. So thanks to everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules. We definitely appreciate it. Uh, for those that are tuning in, thank you so much for listening. And if you guys happen to like what you guys heard and would like to hear it again, I think that everybody on this panel would agree to come back again in maybe next month or next quarter, and we can do one of these every so often. But drop us a comment in whatever platform you're listening in on, and we'll take that into consideration because I think Nix and I still have some cards up our sleeves in terms of topics that we want to address in this creative development, character development
Definitely.
era. Yeah, so we could definitely keep going, but hey, it's up to you guys. Without your guys' support, we couldn't do this without you. So definitely let us know if you want to hear more. And if you have a specific topic you would like us to address in the next one, definitely let us know, and we will throw that out there as well. So thanks again, guys. I appreciate you, and hopefully you guys have the rest of your day is good for you. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having
Thanks.
us.
Yeah. Thanks
Take
for joining.
care.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for whatever.
Thanks for hosting, Earncast. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
You
Catch
are
you later.
welcome.